Hello, this is Doug Doyle of my YouTube channel, Shiblon Faithful. It is good to be back. I've been on a sort of a sabbatical of sorts for just over 2 months since my last podcast. Today, this is my 23rd podcast video, which I put out on this channel. And my last one was released and published on April the 3rd, 2024. Today is now Thursday, June 13th, 2024. I'm here in the northern part of the great state of Utah, and I want to speak about a few things here. A couple of stories I've told in many previous uh, videos. In my podcast. I've uh, told stories, true stories of my life in the past that I was hoping that I put out there that might be of help spiritually to those who are watching, those who watch my videos. Many different topics, personal experiences that related to each one of those uh, principles of the gospel and experiences therein. Today, I'm going to talk about a couple stories about not me, but true stories that happened back in early July of 1839. I think that's 185 years ago. And that was experiences of a man who was called Parley P. Pratt, three P's, Parley P. Pratt. Uh, and that was experiences that started in uh, roughly the center of Missouri and ended up getting pretty close to the Mississippi River and the state of Illinois. Once again, this is back in early July, either late June and early July, or just early July of 1839, right in that time period. Now, um, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And I've been a member since I was 33 years of age, so many years since then. And I've always tried to reach everybody, whether you're members of the church or not, uh, members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or not, as I was not for 33 years until I joined at that age. Uh, so I know what it feels like to not be a member and to be a member. And I've always tried to reach out to everybody in all things that I do and say, including on these videos. Um, I'll talk about a couple of things that may be surprising to anybody's watching this that's not a member of the church. You may be unfamiliar with some of the things I might say uh, or things about the church, but bear with me. And if you have any questions, you can always go to the Church of Jesus Christ.org website on the internet and research that as well. Maybe even communicate through there to talk to missionaries from the church to talk to you about more about the church. If you have a good, sincere heart, humble heart, to want to find out more. Um, Now, the first story I want to talk about, Elder Pratt was one of the first apostles. When I say apostles, there's 12 apostles, the quorum of the 12 apostles, similar to the church when Jesus Christ was on the earth. And after he ascended to heaven, with Peter being the senior apostle at that time, uh, we restored the church, the true church, in 1830. It was restored under the direction of Jesus Christ, as he directed Joseph Smith Jr. at that time in 1830 to found that church, to restore and found the church at that time. Now, these events, they had a quorum of the 12 apostles, which were called to that calling, I think, of in 1835, about 5 years later. Elder Pratt was one of them. He ended up dying when he was about 50 years old in 1857, I think, outside of the city or town of Van Buren in the state of Arkansas in 1857. These events happened in 1839. He had been in prison along with other leaders of the church, including the prophet Joseph and his brother Hiram and other brothers as well, in different jails in Missouri in late 1838 into 1839, the early part. Richmond, Missouri, and then Liberty, Missouri, strange name for a jail to be in a town called Liberty. Um, and then for 2 or 3 months later, Elder Pratt was in a town east of that called Columbia. That's the name of that town in Missouri. Anyway, he escaped. Let's talk about Polly P. Pratt. I think there's one or two other brothers with him that escaped at the same time, but I think if that's the case, they went their own way. And by the way, uh, as you like, subscribe, and share this video, add any comments in there, including if you're familiar with his autobiography and his other stories about probably Pratt I'm going to be talking about. If I'm incorrect, please correct me in the comments below. That would be much appreciated. But also on the other side of the coin, if I'm correct, give me the old pat in the back with a good comment there as well. I wouldn't be averse to that. Um, Anyway, just speaking about his escape, the jailer, when this happened, I think the doors being open and they pushed it wide open to surprise the jailer and they ran out. And he was just talking about Elder Pratt. He's running for his life. He's going across an open field. He ends up jumping over a fence. He's still in the field, headed for a group of the woods. He's still not there. It's a large field, what he said. And the jailer finally comes to his senses when Polly Pratt said he was about 200 yards away from the jailer. So he gained some ground. The jailer had a large dog, which Elder Pratt said was the largest dog he'd ever seen in his writings. And the jailer finally pulled himself together and ordered his own dog, this large dog, to go after him. I can't remember exactly what he said. It was written down, but something to the effect of to the dog, pointing toward Elder Pratt, who was by himself in that field. Get him, get him, and pointing for the dog to go in that direction. The dog was obedient, did exactly that. Was hightailing it toward Elder Pratt. And just before he caught up with him, and he's still in the open field, it's a large field, and he's still trying to make his way. The dog was almost upon him when Elder Pratt all of a sudden came to realization. I'm sure he was guided by the Spirit to do this. I don't know if he said that, but he did say this, that he turned around to face the dog just at that moment and continued and mimicked what the jailer was saying to the dog in his actions and words. And he said to the dog, in effect, to have him continue on and get away from him. He said, "Get him, get him!" Like he was not the prisoner, but the prisoner was somewhere else up ahead. And he told that dog, "Get him, get him!" And the dog followed his directions. It kept on going and going. So he was able to escape. And he said that he never saw the jailer or the dog ever again. So he made his way. It took a few days to get back from this, roughly from Columbia in the central part, give or take, of Missouri, and it's making its way toward Quincy, Illinois, and then from there, I think, from there to Nauvoo, Illinois, on the western edge of Illinois, right there on the right there in the Mississippi River, 1839, where the saints had gathered, members of the church. Uh, and as he's going, he's trying to travel by night, and that's the first story about that first moment when he escaped with that dog. Kind of funny. And the second story is from what I read years ago from his autobiography. Uh, and he, it must have been, I don't know whether it's 2, 3, 4, or 5 days after that. He's still trying to make his way his fellow saints in Illinois, escaping. He was on foot, he wasn't on horseback. So, and he traveled by night. That's what he said, try to travel by night so he wouldn't be detected. Uh, and finally, one day, it happened to be he had to get from point A to point B, and he couldn't wait till nightfall. So he had to go and with the sun shining down and there's daylight, and he was going to be seen taking a chance. As he approached this one field, headed for this one direction. In that direction, up on a ridge, I guess, about I don't know, 200 yards away, he saw two riders on horseback who probably were looking for him. You could hear from what they're saying and they were looking directly at him, and they're making comments to each other, like in effect, like this is the guy, Elder Pratt. They're talking about one of the prisoners they're trying to get back to Illinois. I mean, get back to Missouri. So this is the guy, and they just stayed there because he decided to keep on walking. I knew he was inspired. I can't remember how he worded it, whether he said a prayer at that time about what to do or for protection, which I think he did. But uh, he kept on going and walking in their direction. He didn't try to escape sides. He knew they could catch up to him with their horses. So he just went straight for them, walking. They stayed there because he was walking toward them. They didn't have to go anywhere. And just before he got up to them, just at that time, he said that I can't remember his exact words, but he said in effect that they acted and appeared as though they could no longer even see him. Like he was invisible now. They couldn't even see him. And he walked by, there's two of them, and he didn't walk behind them where they couldn't see him. He walked right past them, right in front of their faces, and kept on going. And they never realized he was there at that moment and beyond. So he escaped from them. Uh, just amazing story. It's a pure miracle of the Lord and blessing under Elder Pratt at that time. Many miracles have happened in in the early days of the church and continued up in all these years since then to this present day across the world. The media does not report on these things, which are good and blessing to miracles. Hardly at all, if at all. But these things do happen to this day. And they happened that very day as well, back in 1839. Kind of very remarkable. Not kind of, very remarkable. Now, I was going to read something from a talk that was given in General Conference just over 2 months ago on April the 6th, 2024. In our General Conference, we have General Conference twice a year, early April and early October every year. Well, the first full talk that was given on that day, that was a Saturday morning, was by President Jeffrey R. Holland, who was the acting president of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, modern day apostles, apostles through and through, just as they had in the days of Christ and after he had ascended, had been uh, resurrected and ascended to heaven, with Peter being the senior apostle at that time. The restored Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints has apostles this very day, and has since then, since 1830, when the church was founded under the direction of the Lord to Joseph Smith Jr. Now, uh, President Jeffrey R. Holland was looking a lot better, even though he's in his early 80s. I gave his talk. He lost his wife. I think it was May of last year. I think it was Patricia Holland. And then he himself, before then, leading up to her death, and after that, after her death, they both had suffered under really bad health concerns, health problems. She had passed away from them. He continued on, but was of very poor health, nigh unto death, according to Elder Renlund, Dale Renlund. I think he reported when he saw him at that time. In a miracle, I can't remember. I don't know who gave him a blessing. I do not remember that, or if it's ever been mentioned, or if it ever has been mentioned. But he received, President Holland received a blessing from the Lord that restored his body greatly. Now, he doesn't look like a 20-year-old. It's not that sort of a miracle. He still looks like the age that he is. But his face and his appearance looks a lot healthier. But in his talk, he talked about how he may only be around for the next few weeks or months in his General Conference talk in April. I love that man. His talks have always been an inspiration to me. And this one is called Motions of a Hidden Fire, is this particular talk's title. You can find that on the church website, churchofjesuschrist.org. You go to libraries, click on that toward the top, then to General Conference, and then to April 2024, and look for the Saturday morning, and near the beginning of that list for that particular session on Saturday morning, you'll find Motions of a Hidden Fire by President Jeffrey R. Holland. That's the one. Now, in his talk, he talks about uh, many things. And I'm not going to read that here, but part of what I gathered from his talk, part of it, was that we as Latter-day Saints, we as members, we as saints, as members of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, uh, can't just rely on our baptismal certificates that may be fading right now with all the years since we were baptized. On the certificates that were written we have to be energized and anxious. I'll use my words, anxiously engaged. And it's also from the scriptures. Anxious, can't even say the word, anxiously engaged in a good cause in the Lord's work and what the Lord would have us do, temporally and spiritually combined in our lives and with our brothers and sisters. And to reach out to those who are members of the church and those who are not members of the church. I'm a convert. I joined when I was 33, so I know what it's like to not be a member of the church for 33 years, a third of a century to not be a member. And how since that time, many years ago, I've been a member, and how that feels, which is great and wonderful. But he wants us to really, the person I got, we all get our different presidents, which we listen to and watch different talks. But my impression was for me and for us as a church, from what he was saying, is that we have to really, I'll use my words now, get out there and do good works. Let's not be sitting in our recliners, spiritually, so to speak, but get up and do the work that we can do as much as we're able to do. Uh, Everyone's in different physical, mental condition, et cetera, et cetera. But try to do more. Try to do more. That's right. And the second coming is going to come. And each passing day that we live here on the calendar is one day closer to the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. And we don't know when that's going to be. So, but we don't know when we're going to die and pass through the veil. So we have to do all that we can do with urgency. And that word urgency in each days right now, do what the Lord would have us do, is what stands out the most in my mind and when I think about his talk, amongst other things that he talked about. Our nation needs help. Whether our nation's going to survive or not, I don't know. But I do know that the Lord is coming. And I want to be on the Lord's side, not Satan's side. And Satan is having his will and his way across the world, including throughout the United States of America, as everyone knows. So if we look at political problems and economic problems, personal problems, family problems, individual problems, community problems, national problems, world problems, if we think it's just happenstance that these things are happening, they are being directed and encouraged, bad things, evil things, by Satan himself. Uh, and there's a lot of good that's happening now and increasing right now in these days as well on the other side. And those are inspired by Christ and by Heavenly Father. Well, let's go forth with great urgency to do what we have to do, to reach out to others, to be better saints ourselves, to live by and obey the commandments and the covenants which we have made, to keep our covenants, keep the commandments, study the scriptures, pray earnestly every day, multiple times, and to serve others in righteousness and in truth. Just, we should not be going around telling people that it's okay uh, just to be nice to them, that it's okay that when they're talking about them committing different sins or wrongs, we should never pat them on the back, so to speak, and say that. We should always pat them back and let them know instead that we are their brothers or sisters, that we love them in a Christ-like manner. We love them and care for their welfare, and to show them and speak of and show them examples of what Christ would have us all do, to be good examples unto them. And may we do this with urgency once again, and with all our love. As I've said before in some of my previous videos, as were written down in the Bible, in the Old Testament. Let us be strong and of good courage. I love you, and until we meet again.